Hey, what's up? This is Greg. Welcome to DLA Markets. It's the end of the week. As you can see, I'm walking through the woods on a beautiful day, or the ending of a beautiful day. And I wanted to give my update for the week's travails on the station while I'm walking through the woods. So, on this video, I want to just hit a couple things. One is, I'm just going to talk about the market and Fed policy a little bit. And then I want to talk about what's going on in Washington with the debt ceiling. And then I want to talk about the death of legendary investor Sam Zell. Very, very sad. He died at 81 this week. And then I have an idea that I'm pursuing at the end of the video, and I'm going to have a follow-up video on that subject. So let's get right into it, okay? So the market, I'm not going to talk a lot about what the stock market did this week. As usual, it went up and down, but largely focused on what's going on in Washington with the debt ceiling. Okay, it was optimistic one day. Today, they hit an impasse apparently, so the market went down. You know, it doesn't really mean that much to me, these daily fluctuations, all right? But what I wanted to just mention is Fed policy. I just did a video, which I'll put at the end. I'll put it like here at the end, which goes into more detail. But the long and short of it is, the wind-up, so to speak, of it is, the Fed continues to be very data dependent. And so what you need to do in order to prepare yourself as an investor as to what the Fed's going to do, you need to look at these different components that the Fed focuses on with respect to data, okay? And not just look at the headline number. Because if you just look at the headline number, which is the CPI or the core CPI, you're going to miss it, okay? You're going to miss what's going on. So the Fed really talks about and concentrates on service inflation. They focus on employment, which is still extremely tight. Food inflation is still extremely tight. And when I say services, I mean travel and leisure. Still very high, and so you need to focus on that, and particularly labor. Labor has been stubbornly, consistently tight, with an extremely low, 60-year low unemployment rate, okay? Until that unemployment rate comes down, and you start to see, unfortunately, people really suffering, and you see consumers taking more of a hit than they are now. You are seeing consumers taking hits, and you are seeing it getting more and more difficult for them to make ends meet. You look at credit card balances, you look at car defaults, you look at home defaults, mortgage defaults. All of that is showing weakness, but not enough weakness to really hit the economy and really bring down inflation, okay? So keep your eye on that. I'll try and help you with this channel, give you as much information as I have. And as I said, take a look at the end of this video when it pops up over here. Take a look at it, and it goes into a lot more detail on Fed policy, okay? So, debt ceiling, okay? These maniacs in Washington are arguing back and forth. The Republican-controlled House passed a bill which extends the debt ceiling, but it has a lot of cuts, spending cuts, which ultimately are extremely necessary. The present path that we're on with spending is not sustainable. Okay, it's not sustainable. The amount of debt we have, over almost 32 trillion, is not sustainable. It's more than 100% of GDP. It's got to come down. But the Democrats don't want to cut anything. They don't want to cut anything, right? And a lot of the things that the Republicans want to cut basically, denude, so to speak, or, cuts into just about everything that Biden stands for, which is taxing and spending. Okay, that's all the Biden administration has done with the $5 trillion of spending since he's come in, which is absurd, and it's also massively inflationary. Okay, massively inflationary. So both sides are at an impasse. It's very difficult. It's a completely different, each party is living in a completely different universe. And I think what's going to happen is we will narrowly escape a default. They'll come to an agreement at the last minute, and we'll get a reprieve from it. Whether it probably won't be a permanent solution. It'll probably be kicking the can down the road, but at least we'll avoid a default, which would be disastrous for the country, okay, and for the world, quite honestly, because the dollar is the world's reserve currency, okay? And what that means is many, many very large transactions that are done in the world are accomplished in dollars, and therefore governments retain enormous amounts of U.S. government securities in their treasury to be able to even run their governments, okay? So if we defaulted, that would wreak havoc not only on our financial system, right? But it would also wreak havoc on the world's financial system, and it would have, horrible effects going way out. So we don't want that to happen, okay? And, I could do a whole video just on what would happen if we actually defaulted. But I don't even want to go there. So nobody wants to go there. So I think ultimately we're not going to go there. Okay, let's keep our fingers crossed on that. Okay, so let me just talk for a second. I'm just going to find a place to sit down, because this could get a little heavy. Sam Zell, okay? Hopefully you know who he is. He's a legendary investor. He made a name for himself in commercial real estate, but he also invested in many other things throughout his lifetime. I put him up there in the same league as Warren Buffett, Ray Dalio, Stanley Druckenmiller, a lot of the people that I've referred to and featured on the channel. His contribution to investing cannot be overstated, and he will be sorely missed. He was one of the early pioneers in commercial real estate REITs, which stands for Real Estate Investment Trust. He was a pioneer in that area, and when he died, he was worth $5.9 billion, okay, which is, quite an accomplishment. But as I'm sure all of us realize, you can't take it with you, okay? And I don't know why it made me think this, but as I think about my life, and as I think about the successes I've had, the money I've made, the money I've lost, and looking at what you think would be of value, or what you would reflect back upon when you're on your deathbed, you inevitably come to the conclusion that all those millions and billions, at the end of the day, even though it's like a scorecard, it really doesn't mean anything, because you can't take it with you. And the things that people are going to remember you for, and the things that you're going to look back on in those final days and hours, are going to be the people in your life that you loved, the people in your life that loved you, and how much of a difference you made in other people's lives by being here. And I know, just for myself personally, with all the things I've accomplished and all the things that I failed to accomplish, the things that to this day remain the most important to me are my family, my wife, who's very dear to me. We've been married for over 30 years. My 2 kids who are grown and still love me and still want to be with me, and I still want to be with them. And that anyone will tell you, whether they were successful or not, or regardless of their material success, will tell you that those close relationships, those family relationships that you have are always the most meaningful, and always much more meaningful than money. And the other thing is that you realize later in life that the important successes that you have were the ones where you contributed the most to other people. I know that sounds corny, but the amount of money you're going to make is going to be directly proportional to the value you create for others. Okay? And when someone of a legendary status like this passes away, I don't know, I tend to think in those terms because these people had such extraordinary financial success. It's just like off the scale. Anyway, those are the thoughts I have for today. But on a lighter note, as I look out, because a lot of people say on the channel, a lot of people comment on the channel, they want me to get back to giving investment ideas and, recommending things. And as you know, I've been bearish for a long time. Well, last year, since the Fed started tightening, I've been bearish. So investment ideas that jump out at me are few and far between these days, because I'm really marshaling my resources. I'm keeping myself liquid, as I would advise everyone to do, because in the next year or two, there are going to be some insane, unbelievable opportunities. And when those opportunities come, it's usually at a point in time where the shit hits the fan. And so you have to be liquid at those points, and you don't want to get overly invested and take on all this risk at a period like this when the Fed is still tightening and we have a banking situation, banking problems, and the immediate future is very uncertain. Generally, you want to wait till the shit hits the fan. You want to be liquid at that point. And what happens is most people are not liquid. They're usually fully invested, so they can't take advantage of the opportunities when they come. Okay, so I might be a little bit early on this, but I guess one thing that's jumped out at me in the last couple of weeks is REITs, okay, real estate investment trusts. And I've done content on this also, which I'll put in the description. The commercial real estate market is currently in complete disarray. Okay, I'm in the commercial real estate market, so I know this market very well, in addition to being a stock investor. And as a result, these public REITs, which are basically just investment funds, public investment funds that own commercial real estate, have taken a nosedive. Now, forget about office, okay? Because I can't even evaluate office, because I think office as an asset class is done. You can't convince me that office is ever going to be a good bet again, okay? Because I wouldn't even know how to analyze that, because it involves too much speculation on where people are going to end up working in the next 10 years, and I can't even begin to understand that. But if you look at industrial and multifamily, and you really broke it down, you really analyzed which companies are selling for less than their net asset value, I think if you pick the right one or ones, you can potentially, in 3 to 5 years from now, make a really nice hit on this, and maybe even earlier. I don't know. But like I said, I might be early on this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a deep dive into it and see what I can figure out, and you know, if I can come up with something that I think makes a lot of sense, I'll do a video on it. Okay, how's that? So you know, that's basically what I wanted to talk about in this video. It's getting a little late here. There's probably a glass of Chardonnay waiting for me at home. I like Kendall Jackson. They're not a sponsor, but I like Kendall Jackson, and I like to refer to it as Kendall, my friendle. So my friendle is waiting for me at home, so I'm going to head on back, and I hope you got value out of this video, and if you did, please subscribe and like. It'd be great to have you on board on the channel, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next video. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you soon.